Hey, welcome back, knife nerds and everyday care people. It's your boy, the Big Conductor here, and coming at you with another video. And what I want to have a look at today is a very, very integral, important part of the knife world, knife industry, knife building, knife maintaining, and knives. And what I want to talk about is strops and stropping. I've got three examples here right now of wonderful, wonderful strops. Now, you might ask yourself, what is a strop? Well, a strop is a material that polishes and removes the wire edge off your knife. So what you're looking at to do with this strop is you're looking at polishing that very fine edge and also we're using it to remove the wire edge. So now when you're sharpening, there will be an ever so slight apex. Like, I mean, just the very end of the apex. Now, when that is, when you're sharpening, you get so fine that the apex gets so small and thin that there's not enough metal behind it to support itself. So it'll flop over back and forth as you're sharpening from side to side. So now, what that stropping does is, as you strop, you're basically, what you're doing is you're pulling that away until you've got a strong edge that is very, very sharp, polished, and that wire edge is gone. And so now your apex can support itself, and it will allow you to maintain a sharp edge and cut things. So I hope that gives you an idea of what a strop is now, and you know what it does. Now, when you're actually going to be stropping with your strop, you are going to be just trailing. You're going to be using the trailing edge rather than pushing into it. So what you want to do is, just to give you a quick idea here, is, so your sharpening angle, so if your sharpening angle is, let's just say it is, say 20 degrees, you want to sharpen just a smidge higher, and just so you're getting that apex and drawing back. Now, whether you want to do it, say 10 times on each side and then flip over, you're welcome to do it that way. I find a lot of people, what they're doing is when they're trying to remove that wire edge, they'll do 5 or 10 times and then they'll flip over, do 5 or 10 times. Now, once that wire edge is gone, then a lot of folks will alternate strokes back and forth too as well, okay? So that just gives you an idea here. So, all right, so in here I've got three wonderful examples of some strops. Starting on this side here, we have got the Knives Plus Strop Block, which is a great strop. Looks like these are built in Texas, and they've got quite a process to build these strops. It's not as much as just taking some leather, gluing it to a board, and then adding some compound, painting it on. They have a 2-day heat process where they basically preload this strop compound in this block, and it will last for a long, long, long time. I've had this strop for probably 10 months now, and it's getting to the point where I need to maybe do a little bit of reconditioning on it, and I'll get over that. But there's that one. And on this side here, I've got what's called a 4-stroke from a gentleman by the name of the Stroppman. And unfortunately, I just found out that the Stroppman passed away, Robert. I guess he was a absolute wonderful, wonderful man, a God-fearing man, a God-fearing family man, who started this business in his garage, and it took off. I mean, they've got strops in over 80 countries and 10,000 strops. And you know what? He was excellent at what he did. Both of these strops, but I mean, this strop here is 4-stroke, is a wonderful, wonderful strop. The quality of materials, the quality of workmanship is absolutely top notch. And if you are looking for a Stroppman strop, they've actually got, the company's now been changed to stropbros.com, stropbros.com. So definitely one to check out. Either one of these, you're not going to be hurting if you've got either one of these. And now this one here is one that I got from my father-in-law. It's a type of strop. It's actually a Norton Pike. It's actually a hard strop, and this actually was done for razors, but it works wonderful, wonderful on knives. And it's actually two two type of material. So this is kind of a little bit of a higher grit side. So you kind of start off on this one to do a little bit of sharpening, you know, still pulling back, stropping, and then you'll flip to this side and you'll strop back and forth using alternating strops. Now, this isn't an actual stone. It's actually like probably, I think it's a resin with some grit on it. And these little tiny holes here are designed to actually pull that razor's edge right off the end of the razor blade or the knife blade. And I found that this is a wonderful, wonderful strop. I had to do a little bit of lapping on this stone when I first got it. It was a little bit concaved, and I've straightened it out and I've learned how to use it, and it's fantastic. So another thing you can use actually for stropping here too as well, it's a couple of things that people use, is they'll use a wood strop with a either compound or a diamond spray or a CBN spray on it. I like using these as kind of a, you know, once in a while I'll use these wood strops. They're a great way to maintain your blade edge, and we'll kind of go over that here too as well. And then you've got stuff here like this is just a foam sanding block in the automotive industry for sanding bodywork, and I've taken some high grit sandpaper and I've used that as kind of a strop too as well. Now I'll use this to convex an edge, which basically means a zero grind, is I'll lay it completely flat and then I'll press into it and I'll pull back, and it'll get rid of that final edge. So you've got a zero grind is what it's called. And basically what a zero grind is your edge, and you've got a primary and you've got a secondary edge, and your secondary edge is just that little bit of shiny spot. Well, having a zero grind is you've got your edge from there right to the back is one solid flat piece. And if you want to know what's that about quite a bit more, there's actually a fellow by the name of Virtual Voice out of Japan. He's a doctor and he loves zero grinding all his blades. And have a look at that fella, and he is an absolute master at it. And he's helped me quite a bit in my sharpening abilities. All right, so that's just one way to do some more stropping, because stropping is a varied and large subject. So let's kind of go over what we can. So now when you're stropping, most of the time you're going to be stropping on a leather material that's either glued to some wood or it's on a hard surface so it can place straight and flat. Now in this here, your strop block, your Stropman's 4-stroke, this gives you an idea of your different compounds. And these by all means are not the only compounds. These are just something that I think that it's the majority of knife folk and knife users out there will use these compounds. All right, and here we've got, these are the compounds that came with my Stropman strop block. And of course you've got let's go with number 4, which is the highest grit. You've got the black, which is your coarsest grit, and I do believe this is somewhere around 1,500 to 1,000 grit or so. These compounds here, the different colors usually mean right along the same thing, but different companies have different grits, different compound sizes, and different colors. So this is by no means the end all and be all of your stropping compound, but it does give you a good idea. All right, so we've got black here, which is your coarsest grit, and then of course we move over here to your number 3, which is your white. Now I do know that there are some companies, this is your white and your green can sometimes interchange. For the most part though, I found out that your white is a so your black grit is a cutting compound, your white grit is a cutting and polishing compound, your green grit is strictly a polishing compound, does not remove very much material at all, just polishes. And then of course you've got red here, rouge, which is a lot of people call it jeweler's rouge. That is your extreme polish. So this will be your finest grit here too as well. Now a lot of folks, instead of using this compound, I used this compound for a little bit. I found that it did okay, but it didn't go as fast as I wanted to. And there were some times when I just wanted to strop my knife and do a little bit of sharpening rather than polish it up. And I found that this is something that works absolutely fantastic for that. that is your diamond spray. So that is another compound, and that is basically very, very fine particles suspended in a liquid. And so the liquid is a carrying compound that will carry your diamonds into your strop, and you can spray this on leather, you can spray it on wood, you can spray it on cardboard. I've even had folks that will spray it on their ceramic sharpening stones just to give that little bit of extra bit of cut. And this stuff here, this is actually hand American diamond suspension, and it is wonderful stuff. I mean, you've got some real super steels out there right now that this chromium oxide is what this green stuff is called. The chromium oxide will cut your carbon steels extremely fine in most of your steels, but you've got some real super steels with some heavy carbides where this stuff has a real hard time cutting, and it just rounds off your carbides. So even though you seem like you're getting sharper, you don't have that real biting sharpness. That's where your diamond spray is going to come into play, and it's going to be an absolutely fantastic, wonderful way to go with your super steels. And I have found that this stuff here will bring a knife edge back like nothing else that I own. So if I've taken a knife and I've done a lot of cutting with it, and I don't want to spend that time sharpening, these diamond sprays will. All I have to do is strop that knife, and it brings that edge right back to extreme bitey sharpness. And then when you've got your real, like your 25 and your 0.5 and your 0.25 micron, those are your hair whittling. And I love, to me, my favorite one is, I think I'm out of frame there. Sorry about that. Your 25 and your 0.5 micron are your real polishing edges, but my favorite is this 1 micron. It seems to be the best of both the worlds. It doesn't give a nice polish, but it also gives that real sticky, bitey sharpness too as well, which is something that we all look for in our knife blades. All right, so let's, there's other emulsions out there. There's a CBM emulsion, which is a carbon boron nitride, which is not quite as hard as diamonds. It's, I think, number 9, 10 being the hardest thing on the Mohs hardness scale is diamonds. I do believe CBN is 8 or 9, and your super steels are going to be probably 7. So it's more than enough. It's more than enough hardness in there to take care of those super steels. All right. A lot of words spit out there. All right. So let's kind of finish this off. Now, a lot of times you don't need to spend a whole lot of money with these strops. These two here I bought, and they're fine strops. Same thing with the compounds. These compounds came with this Stropman strop that my wife got for me for my birthday one year. But a lot of times I just run down to what's in Canada, it's called Princess Auto. And I can't remember the name of it in the States, but it's just basically, it's your Walmart of hardware stores. And I just picked up this NK polishing compound. And if you look at Virtual Voices channel, he uses the green compound and absolutely swears by it. And I've used it too as well. I've used the black, I've used the green, and I've used the white. And of course, we've got the brown here. And I've tried the blue, but the blue is just not, it doesn't cut hard enough. The blue is designed for plastic, but from your brown, from your rouge all the way to your black is good for printing any metal that's out there. And not a whole lot of money. I mean, this little bar here, I do believe was $6, and it's more than enough. This here will last me probably 10 years. My green compound that I have on some homemade strops, and that was the other thing we're going to go through, is a lot of times you don't need to buy these online. You could just simply go down to your local store, grab some leather. You can grab some from the local craft store. If you've got a saddle maker in town, lots of times they've got cast off leather. You find some real good leather and a flat surface. Most of the time it's wood. This happens to be an old cutting board that I just cut up, and I just simply glued some leather to it. And I've just basically, you take your compound on and you just paint it on like a crayon. And there's many different ways of applying your compound too as well. Lots of times people will take a hot heat gun, they'll heat their leather hot, and then this stuff melts on a whole lot nicer. Other times people will use a mineral oil to put on there and recondition the leather. They can use that too as well. There's all sorts of delivery compounds, and I'm sure if you scour the internet, there is so many ways of applying the compound to your strops that there's too much to list here. You can even get this in a powder form, where you actually put a binding material on your leather, sprinkle your powder on, and then it'll set up, and then you've got it done that way. It's been applied that way. So for as many strops as we have here, there's 10 times more ways to apply it. All right, so yes, we'll put that there too as well. We'll put that here off to the side. So that gives you an idea of the many amount of strops that we've got. So, and building them is quite easy. Now you've got a way to, so once your strops, they will become loaded up. So basically what you're doing is you're taking very, very fine metal particles, and you're basically kind of not sanding them off, you're polishing them off, and your strops always become loaded up with fine metal. And you can see here, this was just a soft piece of molding that I got. I just had it laying around the house, and I liked how it was nice and soft. It wasn't so hard like I was stropping on glass. It allowed a little bit of feedback to the stropping, so that's why I chose this particular one and just sprayed it with some diamond spray. And you can see how much metal has come off over the last couple of years. And now this here, what happens to this wood will also happen to your strops. So, and there's, like I said, there's a multiple way of reconditioning your leather and cleaning up your leather too as well, whether you want to go as fine as completely removing it right to the bare leather. People even take their strops and sand them to get rid of the fine little bit. But as you get more experienced and knowledgeable in your knife collecting and knife craft and knife sharpening, you will start to figure out what you like. And this particular one here with a Knives Plus strop block, they've impregnated this leather so well that you can see here, I just take my finger and it cleans off that last, the little top layer of compound and steel, and it raises the nappa a little bit too as well. On something like this here that is really, really impregnated, I probably would take this and heat it up with a little bit of mineral oil and some rags and wipe it completely off. And once I've got down to the bare leather, I'll take some super fine sandpaper and just give it a little bit of a buff, and that'll smooth it out too as well and bring up that that lap. Now, one of the things you got to watch out for is I like to strop my knives so much, in fact, that I think I do more harm than good. And for me, it's relaxing. And I think once you get into this crazy knife world, you'll have little dumb things that relax you. Sometimes it's flicking out a flipping knife. That's one for me. And then I know 100% that my wife wants to take that knife out of my hand and stab me in the throat with it, because it drives her bananas sometimes that I flick my knife so much. But one of those things that I like doing that's a little bit quieter is I like stropping. It's relaxing. I sit there and I watch a movie, and if I by myself, I'll take out my strop and I'll sit there and I'll just slowly strop my knife, and it's nice and polished and it's super sharp. But I think you can overdo it and you can dull your knife a little bit. So there's, a cautionary tale. The other thing too as well is pressing too hard with your knife on your strop block. So now what happens is, as you're pressing too hard, your strop is a pliable material, and there's little tiny fine particles, and what they'll do is they'll curl over top of your knife blade, and they'll attack the very, very apex on it, and they'll smooth it out a little bit. So therefore, you're just going backwards. So what you'll want to do when you strop, you'll get to know what sometimes all you need is just the weight of the knife just to strop. You don't need to press a whole lot down in there, just a little bit. Some people, they like to strop really fast. I like to strop really nice and slow. You'll get to know what works best for you. Some people, and stropping the same way is not going to work every single time for every single strop and every single knife. There are certain times you'll want to strop if you're removing a wire edge. You'll want to be a little more up on your edge. If you're just sharpening your knife again, you might want to lay back just a little bit. If you're just polishing, you might want to lay back just a little bit. The other thing you'll do is over time, you're going to gouge your strop, you're going to cut into it, you're going to forget, and you're going to cut it. It's just the way it is. No strop is going to look absolutely fantastic for the life of your strop. As you can see here, I've got so many little nicks and gouges into my strop. It's not even funny. And how you'll want to take care of that is, it's not super expensive, the leather and the wood. Sometimes you just want to maybe throw them away. The other time is you'll just want to take some sandpaper and sand a lot of that stuff right out of there, and you'll just bring back to the life of this as well. So I hope this is giving you some insight on, stropping and the stropping world and what can be done. One thing here too I wanted to let you know here, I forgot to say, is your stropping is not going to take out imperfections in your blade edge. Maybe in some rare circumstances, you'll have some very, very fine microchipping. You might be able to strop out with some real coarse stropping compounds. But for the most part, if you're trying to hit that mirror polished edge and you've got any sort of lines in your bevel here, you're not going to be able to strop them out, and you're just going to be chasing nothingness, and it's going to drive you crazy. All you're going to have is some really, really shiny scratches. So if you're looking for that mirror edge, do your work on your stones, get rid of as many of those deep scratches as you can, and then look at doing your stropping. All right, so yes, so the other nice thing I want to say about stropping is stropping will take away a lot of time you need to have on the stones. Whether you have a KME system or whetstones or the Spyderco ceramics, stropping will bring your knife edge back a lot. So I know guys who will sharpen their knives, get it to hair whittling sharp. They'll use their knives, and every day, if they've cut something, they'll give it a few strops at home, and it'll be 6-10 months, a year before they need to put it back on a sharpening system. They've been able to keep that edge super sharp by just stropping as needed, and it's just basically you're just maintaining your edge. All right, so that is my little spiel about the stropping. I hope it helps somebody out there. I hope you guys have some insight on what stropping does and what it'll do for you. And I certainly hope it's been entertaining. All right, so thanks for stopping by. Please give me a like and subscribe if you like what you heard. I want you to stay safe in the time of COVID-19. Please stay safe. Listen to the experts out there. Keep your stick on the ice, the shiny side up. This is a big Canucker saying adios.